Ladies and gentlemen, in many Japanese anime stories, characters are not simply born as heroes. They are shaped by their experiences, their struggles, and the unexpected twists that force them to grow beyond the life they once knew. Today's story is about one of the most unpredictable and fascinating transformations in anime, the journey of Lou, a girl who began her life as a sheltered mafia princess and eventually became a fearless fighter in a chaotic world. Before the chaos, before the battles, and long before anyone imagined her becoming a fighter, Lou's life followed a completely different path. She was born into a powerful mafia family, a world where influence, wealth, and reputation controlled everything. From the moment she opened her eyes to the world, her future was already shaped by the legacy of her family. Being the daughter of a mafia leader meant she lived surrounded by protection, luxury, and constant attention. Her home was nothing like the homes of ordinary people. It was large, guarded, and always filled with the quiet movement of people working under her family's command. Security guards stood at every entrance, loyal members of the organization moved through the halls with discipline, and every visitor was carefully watched. In that environment, power was normal. Influence was expected, respect was automatic. Yet despite all the power surrounding her, Lou herself was nothing like the ruthless image people might imagine when they hear the words, Mafia Princess. In fact, her personality was the complete opposite. Lou was cheerful, energetic, and often completely unpredictable. While the people around her treated everything with seriousness and caution, she moved through life with curiosity and excitement. Rules that others carefully followed often felt more like suggestions to her. She laughed easily, spoke without hesitation, and rarely seemed intimidated by the serious atmosphere that surrounded her family's world. To many people inside the organization, she was both adorable and terrifying at the same time. Not because she was dangerous in the traditional sense, but because her chaotic personality made her impossible to control. Guards assigned to watch over her often struggled to keep up with her unpredictable actions. One moment she could be calmly enjoying tea in the garden, and the next moment she might suddenly run off chasing something that caught her interest. Her family's powerful members were used to controlling situations with strict order and authority. But when it came to Lou, that control often disappeared. Despite being raised in a world filled with serious criminals and dangerous reputations, Lou never truly absorbed the darkness of that environment. Instead of becoming cold or calculating, she developed a playful spirit that made her stand out even more. She treated the members of her family's organization not as intimidating figures, but simply as people around her. And because of that, many of them secretly cared about her deeply. Even the toughest members of the mafia family found themselves unable to stay angry with her for long. Her bright personality had a strange effect on the people around her. In a world normally filled with tension and danger, Lou's presence created moments of unexpected lightness. However, that same carefree nature also meant she never fully understood the reality of the world she belonged to. For Lou, the mafia life felt almost like a strange adventure rather than a dangerous reality. She knew her family was powerful, but the darker side of that power was something she rarely had to face directly. Most of the dangers were handled by others before they could ever reach her. Because of that protection, Lou grew up with a very different perspective on the world compared to the people around her. Where others saw threats and enemies, she saw excitement and curiosity. Where others relied on discipline and control, she followed her instincts and emotions. In many ways, she was like a spark of chaos inside a world that demanded strict order. At the time, no one truly realized how important that chaotic spark would become. To the members of her family's organization, Lou was simply the unpredictable daughter of their powerful leader, a girl whose playful personality made life a little more complicated, but also a little more lively. But the world outside the safety of her family's influence was far more unpredictable than anyone expected. And the day Lou stepped beyond the boundaries of that protected life, the cheerful mafia princess who once lived surrounded by guards and luxury would begin a transformation that no one could have imagined. For most of her life, Lou believed the world outside her family's protection was simply another exciting place waiting to be explored. She had grown up surrounded by guards, loyal followers, and the powerful reputation of her family. Because of that constant protection, real danger always seemed distant, like something that happened in stories rather than something that could reach her personally. But life has a strange way of changing direction when you least expect it. The moment that truly changed everything for Lou didn't arrive with a warning. It wasn't planned, and it certainly wasn't something anyone in her family could have predicted. Like many turning points in life, It began with what seemed like an ordinary encounter, one of those moments that feels small at first but later reveals itself to be the beginning of something much bigger. Lu had always been curious about the world beyond the walls of her family's influence. While others in the organization believed it was safer for her to stay within the comfort of their protected spaces, Lu often felt drawn toward the unknown. She wanted to see new places, meet different people, and experience life outside the strict control that surrounded her. That curiosity eventually led her to cross paths with a world completely different from the one she had always known. The people she encountered were not part of her family's organization. They didn't move with the discipline of trained guards or speak with the careful respect that everyone showed toward the Mafia family. Instead, they lived in a world filled with chaos, danger, and unpredictable conflict. Their lives were shaped by battles, strange abilities, and situations far beyond anything Lu had ever experienced. At first, the situation was confusing for her. The rules she had grown up with didn't seem to apply in this new environment. In her family's world, power was structured and controlled. Every action had consequences, and every member of the organization followed a clear chain of command. But the chaotic world she had stepped into followed no such order. Things happened quickly, people acted on instinct, situations changed within seconds. For someone who had always lived under protection, it should have been terrifying. Yet instead of retreating back to safety, Lu reacted in the way that had always defined her personality: curiosity. Rather than seeing chaos as something to fear, she saw it as something fascinating. The unpredictability that frightened others seemed to awaken something inside her. It was the same chaotic energy that had always made her different within her family's world. However, this time the stakes were much higher. For the first time in her life, Lu found herself standing in situations where her family's influence could not immediately solve the problem. There were no loyal guards ready to step in and restore order. No powerful name to silence threats before they appeared. She was experiencing the raw unpredictability of the world without the protective shield she had always relied on. And strangely enough, instead of breaking under that pressure, Lu began to adapt. Her natural energy and fearless curiosity started to play a new role. Where others hesitated, she acted. Where others tried to control every detail, she trusted her instincts. Her unpredictable personality, which had once been seen as childish mischief within her family's organization, suddenly became a strength in this chaotic environment. People around her began to notice something unusual. Lu was not just surviving in this unpredictable world, she was beginning to thrive in it. What once looked like recklessness was now starting to resemble courage. What once felt like uncontrolled energy was beginning to look like the early signs of a fighter learning her place in a much larger story. And although Lu herself may not have fully realized it at the time, that single step into chaos had already set her on a path that would completely redefine who she was. The protected Mafia Princess who once relied on the power of her family was slowly stepping into a new identity, one that would soon face challenges far greater than anything she had ever imagined. At the beginning of this new chapter in her life, Lu didn't suddenly become a fighter overnight. Transformation rarely happens that quickly. Instead, it began the same way most real changes begin, with confusion, mistakes, and moments where she had to learn things the hard way. The world she had stepped into was unpredictable, and surviving in it required far more than curiosity and courage. For someone who had grown up surrounded by protection, this was the first time Lu truly had to rely on herself. At first, many people around her underestimated her. When they saw the energetic, cheerful girl who once lived as a Mafia princess, they didn't imagine someone capable of standing in the middle of chaos. To them, she looked like someone who had wandered too far from the comfortable world she came from. But Lu had always been full of surprises. Her personality, which once seemed reckless and playful, began to show a different side when faced with real challenges. Instead of freezing in fear when situations became intense, she reacted with instinctive confidence. While others spent time analyzing every possible outcome, Lu often trusted her gut and moved forward without hesitation. That boldness slowly became one of her greatest strengths. In chaotic environments where plans could fall apart in seconds, someone who could adapt quickly was incredibly valuable. Lu's unpredictable nature allowed her to react in ways that enemies and even allies didn't expect. She didn't fight according to strict rules or carefully practiced routines. Instead, her style was spontaneous, energetic, and sometimes completely unexpected. What once looked like uncontrolled chaos was slowly turning into a unique fighting spirit. Of course, the journey wasn't easy. There were moments where she faced situations far more dangerous than anything she had experienced before. Challenges that forced her to grow stronger, think faster, and understand the reality of the world she had stepped into. Each obstacle became another step in her transformation, and with every challenge she overcame, the image of the Mafia Princess began to fade. In its place, a new identity was forming. People who once doubted her started seeing something different. They saw determination behind her playful attitude. They saw courage in the way she stepped forward even when things looked uncertain. And most importantly, they saw someone who refused to back down simply because the world around her was chaotic. Lu wasn't trying to become a traditional hero or a disciplined warrior. Her strength came from something much more natural, her refusal to lose the energetic spirit that had always defined her. Even when the situation was serious, she still carried the same lively energy that made her stand out from the beginning. She laughed when others expected fear. She moved forward when others hesitated. And that unpredictable confidence created a powerful presence on the battlefield. Her fighting style became a reflection of her personality. Fast, surprising, and full of energy. Rather than suppressing her chaotic nature, Lu embraced it completely. She learned how to turn her instincts into action and her excitement into momentum. Instead of trying to become someone else, she allowed her natural personality to shape the way she faced challenges. That decision made all the difference. Because in a world already filled with serious fighters and strict strategies, someone like Lu brought something entirely unique. Her presence reminded others that strength doesn't always have to look calm and controlled. Sometimes, strength can be loud, unpredictable, and full of life. By the time people realized what was happening, the transformation was already complete. The girl who once lived under the title of Mafia Princess had become something far more dynamic. A fearless chaos fighter who charged into challenges with energy, courage, and a spirit that refused to be contained. And in many ways, that transformation made her one of the most unforgettable forces in the story. By the time Lu fully stepped into her new role, the change in her life was impossible to ignore. The girl who had once lived under the protection of a powerful mafia family was no longer simply the energetic daughter of a famous leader. She had become someone who could stand in the middle of chaos and face it head-on. Not because she was forced to, but because she had discovered a new purpose in the unpredictable world around her. This transformation was not about abandoning her past. In fact, many of the qualities that once defined her life as a mafia princess continued to shape the fighter she became. The confidence she developed while growing up in a powerful family, the fearless curiosity that always pushed her to explore new situations, and the energetic personality that made her impossible to ignore, all of these traits combined to create a completely unique kind of warrior. Lu did not become a fighter in the traditional sense. She did not rely solely on strict discipline or rigid strategies the way many others did. Instead, she embraced the chaos around her and learned how to move with it rather than against it. While others tried to control every moment of battle, Lu thrived in situations where unpredictability ruled. Her natural instincts allowed her to react quickly, adapt to sudden changes, and turn even the most confusing situations into opportunities. In many ways, the chaotic energy that once made her difficult to control as a child had become the very thing that made her powerful. Her presence on the battlefield brought something different. Where other fighters focused only on strength or technique, Lu brought emotion, excitement, and fearless determination. She approached every challenge with the same lively spirit she had always carried, refusing to let the seriousness of the situation erase her natural personality. And that energy had a powerful effect on the people fighting alongside her. In intense situations where tension and fear could easily overwhelm a team, Lu's confidence often helped lighten the atmosphere. Her unpredictable moves kept opponents guessing, while her fearless attitude reminded everyone around her that chaos did not always have to be something to fear. Sometimes, chaos could be something you controlled. Over time, the people who once saw her as just the playful mafia princess began to respect her in a completely different way. They recognized that beneath her energetic personality was someone who had grown stronger through every challenge she faced. Someone who refused to step back when things became difficult. Lu had become more than just a fighter. She had become a symbol of transformation. Her journey proved that strength does not always come from following a traditional path. Sometimes, it comes from embracing the parts of yourself that others once considered weaknesses. What once looked like recklessness in Lu's personality had become courage. What once seemed like childish chaos had become fearless determination. And perhaps the most remarkable part of her story was that she never lost the spirit that made her unique in the first place. Even as a fighter in a chaotic world, Lu remained the same lively person she had always been. She laughed, she moved with excitement, and she faced every new challenge with the same curiosity that once led her outside the walls of her protected life. But now, that curiosity was backed by experience, strength, and the courage to stand on her own. In the end, Lu's journey from Mafia Princess to Chaos Fighter was not just a story about battles or power. It was a story about growth, identity, and discovering that the traits that make you different can sometimes become your greatest strengths. Because in a world filled with order and control, sometimes the most powerful force is the one person brave enough to embrace the chaos. Every great story leaves us with something more than just action and excitement. It leaves us with a lesson about growth, identity, and the unexpected paths life can take. The journey we explored today is not only about battles or dramatic moments. At its core, it is a story about transformation, about how someone can evolve far beyond the role the world originally gave them. Lu's life began in a place defined by power, influence, and protection. As the daughter of a powerful mafia leader, she was surrounded by authority and security. Her future seemed almost predetermined, as if her identity would always remain tied to the world she was born into. But life rarely follows the path people expect. What makes Lu's journey so fascinating is that her transformation did not happen because she tried to become someone else. Instead, it happened because she embraced the very qualities that once made her stand out. Her energy, her fearless curiosity, and her unpredictable personality were never weaknesses. They were simply traits waiting for the right moment to reveal their true strength. When chaos entered her life, Lu did not run from it. She stepped forward with the same fearless spirit she had always carried. While others tried to impose control and strict order, she adapted, moved with the moment, and trusted her instincts. In doing so, she discovered that her unique way of facing the world was exactly what made her powerful. Her story reminds us that transformation does not always mean abandoning the person you used to be. Sometimes it means understanding yourself more deeply and realizing that the qualities you once overlooked might be the very things that define your strength. Lu's journey from Mafia Princess to Chaos Fighter represents something much bigger than a change in status or lifestyle. It represents the idea that identity is not fixed. No matter where someone begins, their future can evolve through experience, courage, and the willingness to step beyond familiar boundaries. In many ways, Lu's story captures the heart of what makes anime characters so memorable. They grow through challenges, discover new sides of themselves, and inspire others by refusing to stay trapped within the expectations placed on them. And perhaps that is the real message behind her transformation. Life may begin with a role chosen by others, but the person you become is shaped by the choices you make along the way. Because sometimes the most unstoppable heroes are not the ones who control chaos, but the ones brave enough to become part of it.